Hello, hello. Welcome. I'm just going to wait a little bit to get started. Let everyone get settled. Welcome. Hello, welcome. Just going to wait a little bit to get started at 12. Hello. Or 2 where I am. Hi there. Welcome, everybody. There might be a few more people joining, but I will get started and people can join us along the way. So welcome to my class on mindfulness for singing. I'm Alexandra Shank. You can call me Alex, we're casual here. Before we start, I just want to let everybody know that we'll be doing some meditating today, about 5 or less minutes of silent meditation, and then less than 10 minutes of meditation with voice. So please be comfortable in an upright seated position for that portion. And we're also going to be making a little bit of noise with that vocalized meditation. So hopefully you're in an environment where you feel comfortable to do that. If not, you can just observe and soak in the mindful wisdom. And most importantly, please feel free to ask questions throughout this course. I have a chat box open. I'll be trying to monitor that, but there's also the Q&A section, which is a little bit more bold and obvious for me to answer. So I encourage you to use that feature. Once we get to the actual meditation, I really want you to fully participate in that. If you have questions, of course, ask at any point, but I'll also be leaving time for questions at the end. So with that, let's get started. This class is going to help you learn how to embrace your voice through mindfulness meditation. So we're going to cover what mindfulness and mindfulness meditation are, how judgment can limit our singing, how to practice awareness without judgment, and then we're going to be practically applying that with a guided meditation and a voice meditation. So just to cover a bit about me, I've had many different life experiences which give me a really unique perspective, especially on singing. I was a professional opera singer for many years, so I do understand just the depths of creativity you have to draw upon to be a professional singer. And I also understand a lot of the challenges that can go along with that. Most specifically, I ended up having some medical issues with my voice that were really difficult for me to deal with on an emotional level and made it hard for me to be a professional singer. But the silver lining of that is that's how I became interested in the scientific and medical aspects of singing. And now I'm a speech language pathologist, newly graduated with experience in treating voice disorders. And I just love this new field. And I love applying the scientific method to singing, just testing whether what I'm doing is having an effect and looking into the evidence behind all the things we're doing with our voice. But in all my experience as a singer and a clinician, I've noticed the biggest changes in my own voice and in my attitude towards my voice, meditation seriously. I originally became interested in meditation in college and did my first retreat when I was in an opera apprenticeship program in 2013. And after that retreat, I really noticed that I became more patient and accepting of my voice. And when I made some sort of mistake, was lessened significantly. I voice more freely and without judgment. The feedback too that I was getting from audience members and coaches, voice teachers, was really positive. So I know that that effect was observable for others, which is important if you're a performer. But that kind of open mindset that was so wonderful is something that needs to be practiced to be maintained. It's not a switch you can flip and then it just stays that way. Just like exercise, you know, we have an exercise routine and we know we need to maintain that. We have a singing practice routine. Everybody knows you have to practice, but we don't generally think of having a practice routine for our mental habits. But I can say, especially applying that to voice, has been really helpful. So I'm going to share with you some of the ideas and tools that I use to keep myself open to my voice. And one of the words that I find really applicable to all this is balance. And given my varying life experience, am I freezing? Everyone let me know if you can still hear me, please. Okay, I'll keep going. Let me know if you're having any connection issues. But given my varying life experience, I have learned to really value balance. So balance, I would like to point out, is not really a static thing. If you pay attention, if you're standing on one foot, if you really pay attention, you're not just plopped on one foot and standing there. You have to be responsive with your body to the many changes and challenges in each moment. And all balance is like that, be it a metaphor or physically. So I have a balance in my perspective because I can draw upon many experiences from my different career paths and interests and respond accordingly to whatever situations arise. Meditation helps me achieve that balance, again, by giving me a clear view of myself and the world around me, and applying those concepts to my singing gives me a more balanced view of my voice. And the voice and singing itself is really a balancing act. So just looking at it from a scientific or a physical perspective, you have to balance your breath with the vibration of your vocal cords, with the movement of your lips and tongue. So it's a true balancing act. And that's how I teach it physically as a singing teacher. But if you look at just the job of a singer, that's a true balancing act. You have to memorize your music, the text, acting, choreography, and be able to do all of that in a natural and automatic way, because a performance is not a static thing. It is completely dynamic. And being able to respond real time in a balanced way is the mark of a true professional. But I mean, I felt off balanced in my singing, and I know that other people often feel uncomfortable and off balanced when singing so often. So why is this, that something that is so naturally should be balanced can be really an uncomfortable thing sometimes? So another way to look at being off balance is to be resistant to the dynamic changes needed to respond skillfully in the present moment. And I think this kind of resistance tends to occur in part because of a cycle of judgment. So here is my judgment cycle. Starting at the top, we have from the get-go been conditioned to have many ideas about what's good and bad in a voice. And most of the time, our voice doesn't quite meet those expectations. So every time we make a sound at the top of that circle, we hear it, and then there's a little voice in the back of our head going to this second bubble that's telling us good or bad, and usually it's we aren't quite good enough and there's something to fix. So third circle, we try to fix or control that sound. And what do we do to fix or control something? Going to that fourth circle, we grip with our muscles. We try to control, which leads to some muscular tension. Now, this can lead to lack of freedom in our singing and potentially some more serious issues that I might address as a clinician. And this ends up being sort of a negative feedback loop, because when we have that lack of freedom, we can't make our voice do what we think it should do, and then we judge it all the more. And so this cycle just continues. So let's break the cycle. And I really think mindfulness can help us do that. So let's find out how. So I want to define what mindfulness is. And Rick Hansen, who's a therapist who studies meditation effects on the brain, he says mindfulness is simply a continuous, non-judgmental, accepting awareness of your inner and outer world. So this is this state of continuous, non-judgmental, accepting awareness is a state that just feels really good. But more importantly, more and more studies are showing that mindfulness lowers stress, it makes it easier to deal with pain, reduces depression, improves self-acceptance, all things that we want, and we want to apply to our voice. Mindfulness can really bring you into the present moment, and it can detach you from your reactions to it. Not in a way that makes you an emotionless robot, but it's in a way so that you can see what is with clarity. And this helps you change old patterns and respond more skillfully. So that's exactly what we need to do as singers. We need to notice our voice and our body without judging it, and then have the freedom to change our patterns without resistance. And meditation is actually a practice. It's a progressive practice that cultivates this state of mindfulness. And there are many different forms of meditation. So there's a growing movement of secular meditation in the West, which is what I have based this class on. This meditation is often a seated silent practice, but it can really be done during any activity, including singing. And the type of meditation we're going to be covering is concentration-based meditation, where you focus your attention, you concentrate on an object. The object you concentrate on is often the breath, so we'll be doing a little bit of that today. It can also be the sound in your environment, sensations in your body, your field of vision. Basically, it can be anything, including the voice. And regarding the question, what is this about? I hope that this slide kind of laid out that this course is about mindfulness applied to the voice. And here is a short practice outline. So today we're going to be focusing on a meditation concentrating on the breath and voice. So I just want to say that typically in mindfulness meditation, we don't control the breath, we just kind of let it be and explore what's there. Today, for the purpose of singing, we're going to try to access a bit of a lower relaxed breath, which is generally considered the best for singing. We're going to, first do a short breath meditation and then move through a series of vocalizations, starting with humming and building up to a few lines from the John Lennon song, Imagine. If you're not familiar with that song, we're only going to be doing about 4 lines, and I'll post the lyrics here, and you'll catch on quickly. We're approaching it in the style of a chant. So in chanting, repetition is key because it allows you to really dive fully into the experience. Some people might be concerned that all this repetition might get boring, but I promise you, If you're doing this practice, it's not really an issue. You will discover that there's so much depth to each moment, and it just really is miraculous that humans can make a voice at all. And you have this vibration coursing through your body, and the complexity of sounds that you hear in your ear can be just an endless source of fascination. So I hope that you can experience that during this practice. So let's begin our meditation. I invite you to just sit in a comfortable upright position. It can help to put a pillow under your backside or at the lower back just to align your back and pelvis. You'll be able to breathe more comfortably that way. So once you find a comfortable position, just gently close your eyes and bring your attention to your breath. Now, we feel our breath in many different places in our body, but let's narrow our concentration just to the sensation around the nostrils. What do you feel there around your nostrils? Is there air rushing past your skin? In and out. Do you feel a difference in temperature on the inhale and exhale? Just notice it. No need to change anything. If you feel yourself getting a bit distracted by thoughts, just know that this is the most human thing there is. It's happening for all of us. And simply return your focus to the breath and repeat. I'm going to be quiet for about a minute while you explore your breath and just notice everything there is to notice about the sensation of breathing around your nostrils. And if you notice some thoughts popping up, just bring your awareness back to the feeling of your breath. And we're going to start to move that awareness lower to the feeling of breath in your body. And feel free to make any posture adjustments. Feel free to take a sip of water if you need. Just pay close attention to what your body is doing as you're moving. What your breath is doing as you're moving. And bringing that awareness to whatever is expanding and shrinking on your body. Your inhale and exhale. Is it your chest, your ribs, your back, your belly? What does your breathing feel like against the chair where you're sitting, against the clothes you're wearing? There are an infinite amount of sensations to notice around your breath. Now notice if your breath feels slightly constricted anywhere. Many of us will hold tension in our belly to try to keep ourselves small because of whatever external expectations. Just let some of that go. You're in a safe space here and you can let your body take up that space. Just notice how that changes your breathing. Do you have more room? If you need to adjust your position slightly, does that give you more room? And don't judge, just notice the difference. And you might have to release that belly a few different times. Just like mindfulness, this is not a switch that just stays on. It's something you need to repeat. I'm going to be silent for about 30 seconds here. Just cover your breath with your awareness. And when you're ready, gently open your eyes. And if you'd like, I'd love to hear anything you experienced during that. Feel free if you want to share, post it in the chat. I have a question. Do I like singing? And yes, I do like singing. It comes with some really special challenges and some really beautiful moments. So I'm grateful to have devoted so much of my life to singing. And I would say your name is Kushi, but I could be pronouncing it wrong. So I do know what your name is, and I'm really glad you're in this class today. So moving on, goosebumps, I love that. I can relate to feeling like you're not doing the practice right. Especially this concentration thing can be really hard. But the practice isn't about doing it right. It's kind of just about doing it. There's a meditation teacher named Sharon Salzberg who talks about that moment when you notice that you're thinking, you notice you're kind of lost in thought, and then you return your focus back on your breath or whatever object. It's almost like doing a bicep curl for your brain. So you don't necessarily want to be amazing at this because otherwise you wouldn't be doing the exercise. You have to start somewhere, basically. Yeah, I can relate to it being really hot, and sometimes just being able to sit and breathe is so nice and refreshing. Thank you everyone for sharing. Feel free if anyone else wants to share, add it in the chat. So let's keep going and adding some singing to this. So hopefully we can all make some noise. This isn't going to be super loud, but I hope you can just let your voices feel free for this. So let's just take a few seconds to regain our composure and focus on our breath. Just focusing wherever you feel the breath most strongly. In the abdomen, at the area around the nose. And keeping that same focus, we're going to add some voice. Please pick a really comfortable pitch for each of these exercises. It does not have to be the same as mine. Do this at your own pace. If you need to take some just normal breaths without singing between these repetitions, please do so. I just want you, whatever you do, to cover your breath and voice with awareness. So we're gonna start on a hum. It'll look like this. And you can do it shorter than I just did, longer, quieter, louder, whatever is the most comfortable on the most comfortable pitch. So let's do about 5 of those, trying to cover your breath and voice with your awareness. Let's go ahead. And as you're doing this, just notice what you feel and where you feel it. And if you can't follow along with the practice, just keep focusing on your breathing. When you make voice, your body and your eardrums are vibrating along with it. In this next exercise, I want you to try to notice any after effects of the vibration in the silence. So now we're going to add a vowel. And that's going to look like this. Om. And again. Om. 5 of those. Just noticing where you feel your voice. And before we start on this one, if you notice yourself having some reactions to the feeling or sound of your voice, just notice those just like any other thoughts or feelings in this practice. And gently return your focus to your breath and your voice. And we might be repeating those steps a lot. That's completely normal. So the mom, when you're ready, 5 times. And we're going to add another vowel. We're exploring the complexities of each type of sound. Just playing with the stream of air. So that's going to look like this. The sound is im. We'll just do that one 3 times. Actually, let's add an M before that. 3 times. Go ahead. And taking off the first M, just starting straight on that vowel. What is that like? It looks like this. Go ahead and explore the sound of im 3 times at your own pace and your own pitch. Good. Really noticing what all those sounds feel like in your body. We're going to add the full 2 vowels, ima, and then moving into the full word, imagine. Just building up slowly, exploring all the different sounds we can make. So let's do ima twice, building up to imagine. Just follow along with me. Imagine. Imagine. Go ahead, do that at your own pace. A couple more repetitions, just playing with the stream of air. Imagine. Good. And let's move on to some full chanting. This can be done with any simple song. Today we're going to chant these lines of Imagine in any key you want. It doesn't have to be mine. If you need to mute me, that's fine. We're going to do this for a couple minutes. So when I'm done, I'll do this to signal you to tune back in if you're muted. So let's do this one time through slowly and then just kind of flow with it, maybe about 4 times until I give this signal. Same idea. I want you to really feel what your voice is doing with this, really explore your voice, and between the sounds in the silence, really feel the memory of the reverberations. So whenever you're ready, in a nice comfortable position, imagine no possessions. I wonder if you can. No need for greed or hunger. A brotherhood of man. Imagine no possessions. I wonder if you can. No need for greed or hunger. A brotherhood of man. Imagine no possessions. I wonder if you can. No need for greed or hunger. A brotherhood of man. Imagine no possessions. I wonder if you can. No need for greed or hunger. A brotherhood of man. Imagine no possessions. I wonder if you can. No need for greed or hunger. A brotherhood of man. And everyone just finish up that last repetition. Tuning back in. What does your body feel like with the memory of those reverberations? What does your breath feel like now? Thank you, everyone. I hope everyone is tuned back in and I'm unmuted. I hope you feel that chanting really can allow us to feel the freedom and joy that can be in singing in a way that is not always easy to find while performing because there's a lot of different distractions and obstacles. But eventually we can bring more complexity into this practice, make it closer to performing so that we can apply this awareness across both chanting and performing. And it is an amazing feeling when we can do that. I'm glad people enjoyed it. So now I'll just give you some tips to help you apply this on your own in your practice. So if you do feel that judgment creeping in, which we all do, break it down. Pay closer attention to it. Really examine what that sound is, and eventually that judgment kind of stops creeping in. The same can also be done with the thoughts that come up. So as you get better at this practice, better might not be the right word, but more experienced in this practice, you can pay attention to those emotions that are coming up and deconstruct what those feel like in your body. And that can be really helpful. With chanting, it is really helpful to keep a slow tempo at first and maybe start to speed up a little bit as we go. But you don't want to get bogged down in it, and you also want it to be kind of fun, but you do want to be able to cover each of those sounds you're making with your awareness. It's best to pick a simple song at first with a nice small range, preferably within your speaking range. It's best to do something you know pretty well, so this is not a time necessarily to learn music. But as you get more experience with this practice, you can kind of up the challenge level of the piece you choose and even start choosing some repertoire if you're a singer that you would perform. I find it helpful to do an actual chant in a foreign language, just because I don't necessarily want to be distracted by the meaning of the words, but it kind of depends on the person. So that can be a helpful tip too. So I do find it really important to have a regular meditation practice. And this doesn't have to be, an hour or 2 hours every day. I'm really talking about 5 minutes done if you're a singer before you start vocalizing, just to get centered with your breath. And like I showed you today, just kind of flowing with that chant into your regular singing practice. That's how I try to have my students practice, and that is personally what I do in my own practice. It really does help to have one of those meditation apps like Headspace or 10% Happier. I use the Waking Up app. They're all great. There's also the Insight Timer, which is free. There's so many resources out there. So I encourage you to explore those. And a quick Google will find you a great meditation app. So just to sum everything up, we covered how judgment can limit our singing. The basics, mindfulness is helpful, and some practical application of meditation to singing. And I hope you can see how judgment can really limit our singing, and that mindfulness can really be a great tool in helping break this negative feedback cycle and allowing us to embrace our voices. And I hope I've given you some interesting new perspectives on how to practice. So I've left a couple minutes for any questions. Feel free to type them in to the Q&A or the chat. I have both open. So I'll just wait for about a minute. And if no one has questions, that's totally fine too. I hope I have given you a lot to think about. I should be taking new students. So that's interesting that my profile says I'm not. I will look into that. I am taking new students. Um, Regarding falling asleep, it is totally normal in meditation to fall asleep. It happens all the time. That's actually just another thing to be aware of. And that's why we tend not to meditate lying down because uh, I love meditating lying down, but I tend to fall asleep at the end. So it's pretty normal to be lulled to sleep by some of these practices. But if no one else has questions, I will talk a little bit about my private lessons. So I do incorporate a lot of these principles into my voice lessons, depending on what the student wants. You know, if not everyone vibes with this, I'm not going to force a student to meditate every day, obviously. But I have a lot of different perspectives to offer, including a very scientific perspective that many other teachers might not have. So I take some objective measures of my students' voices and track their progress that way. I also have a background in classical singing as well as jazz and musical theater. So I would love to offer private lessons for anyone who is interested. My lesson profile is in the chat and posted up on the screen. So feel free to contact me there. If you would like 10% off, you can apply the code GET10 at checkout to receive 10% off a package of 5 lessons. So I hope to see you at my lesson profile page in the future, and I hope you've really enjoyed the class today. Thank you so much for joining. Have a wonderful day.